Ooh.
Yeah, welcome
Ooh.
into PHNX Bets. Bo Brock, Derek Montilla hanging out, pinch hitting for Shane Diefendorf, and of course our guy, Johnny Venerable. Where the hell are they? What did I say?
Diefendorf.
Diefendorf is not his name.
It's
Well,
Diefen-
he was a
it's
great
Diefenlock.
he was a great offensive lineman for the Arizona Cardinals back in the day, St. Louis Cardinals.
We were talking a lot of old numbers and
Right.
great players, so it's easy.
That's the reason I'm an ass. Is we were talking old numbers, but we've got a fun episode of PHNX Bets coming your way. We're talking some MLB futures. Yeah, Major League Baseball, Derek, already back in full swing today. Yankees in a doubleheader.
Yep.
We're not going to talk about that one. We're actually going to talk about some win totals, what we predict is going to happen the rest of the season, and maybe some we can't get in on actually the awards. Award season has already passed us. Probably have to find on the DK Sportsbook when they put back up on the board who could take home some hardware this offseason.
For sure.
Rookie of the year and all that. But D-back win total, we'll get into that. I've got my thoughts on that. Our producer Jacob already kind of pointing out strength of schedule. Not exactly great for the Snakes, but 69.5, a little interesting what their total is. Oh, You're already going to put it up there, Jacob.
Let's take a look.
I've got a couple bets that I like, and we'll just dive right into it. We're not going to have any conversation or anything before that.
No,
Screw
no
it.
Foreplay.
Let's just get into
no
it.
foreplay at all. Let's get jammed into
make
it.
some people some money here. We appreciate everybody joining us here on the live stream. We've got D-backs over 69.5 because I'm not a big believer in strength of schedule as far as Major League Baseball go. Like you're as good as your starting pitching. The Arizona Diamondbacks offense was atrocious out of the gates. They can't be worse. I think they're going to get some help and some youth infusion at the end of the season. I think they can get to 20 wins by the end of the year.
Well, they DFA'd Dallas Keuchel today. So, yes, you're right about that. We'll probably see some youth at pitching, which is kind of a benefit. Plus, the D-backs have oddly played well against their tough opponents. There's times during their schedule that they should have dominated, and they lost against some of the opponents that kind of some of the other teams in baseball that had a record similar to theirs, but they've stepped up in cases against some of the NL West teams as well as like the Minnesota Twins. So I believe that they can get those 20 plus wins in the second half as well.
All right, so Derek's on board with me.
I'm on board with that
69.5. You like the over at minus 110.
Still alive.
All right,
All
we're
right.
back. We're back. Eagle Bo Jackson in the chat. We appreciate you. What's up, man? We were talking some win totals here. We both like the Arizona Diamondbacks to hit the over 69.5. Now, if you saw that graphic, I had the O's, who were one of the hottest teams in baseball, at 75.5. I think that's too high. I think that's too high for the O's. Yeah. I mean, I like what they've done. I think they might be ahead of schedule. Number one farm team or system in the league. And my point for the D-backs that I didn't get to was that I think in September, obviously rosters expand. You got to have per day. You've got the same amount of guys, 26 guys in September, but you're still going to have a better youth infusion than most of the other teams that you're going to be playing. I like the D-backs, but then again, I don't like the O's as much to kind of get it going and keep that toward pace that they had in the first half.
They've hovered right there around 500. They've been over it and under it around. So like I could see that, especially in the second half. It seems like they've overachieved, and I don't know. At this point, I think they still have a very tough division to face, and a lot of those teams in the division are going to still be scrapping for a playoff spot. So I like that one as well.
What do you like as far as some of these win totals for yourself?
Well, I was taking a look at some of the win totals that we had. I believe, Jacob, do you have the graphic on that?
You're convicted about these.
I'm convicted. I'm convicted that the Angels are going to still remain terrible in the second half, is what it is at minus 120. I almost feel like going on the over on that just to make it interesting, but obviously the Angels, it's just so weird to have two of the best players in baseball on your team and be as bad as they continue to be. Nats, believe it or not, I think that they can reach the over on 58.5. And here's the reason why. Juan Soto or not, I think that team, most likely Juan Soto is going to be gone by the trade deadline. And I think that that's not going to be a thing that that like sinks the team. I think that they might kind of have a chip on their shoulder after that and be looking to prove that they're not the worst team in baseball at that point, which I'm sure they'll be fighting for that record. With the way that the CBA has changed, though, they don't have to. There's a good chance next year that the worst team in baseball isn't going to get the number 1 pick. So we'll see how that plays out when they have that lottery.
And I think manager Dave Martinez has got to have his guys ready to play, because otherwise, with Juan Soto leaving, very good chance he could be done after this season.
For sure.
I mean,
for sure.
If those guys don't come out and play with a sense of urgency, but it is a kind of a stacked NL East.
Yes.
You've got the Braves and you got the Mets playing really good ball. You got the Phillies too. So it's going to be tough, but it's not that big of a number. It's like the Diamondbacks. They've got to get to about 18 or 19 wins.
Yeah.
And
it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. It really isn't.
And honestly, I hate to say this, but the Nationals are playing the D-backs this weekend, and whatever.
Your bet's going to trump my bet. That sucks, but it's all right. I mean, the Angels is an interesting one because they are just a complete dumpster fire, despite having the 2 best players in baseball. And I do like that you might want to just sweat that one out. If you want to feel alive, throw some money on the Angels, and you will feel alive for the entire season, because that is going to be an absolute. No doubt about it. Shaq at the free throw line, sweat till the very end, and that's going to be tough. I mean, there's no givens with that one. That's going to be. There's no lock that they reach. What was it again? 75.5.
75.5. Yeah.
Oof, that's tough for the Angels, and that was a team that the O's were beating up on at the end of the first half. They had the luxury of playing the Angels, where they were just a dead team.
Well, and the Mariners have been very good. And again, it's looking at some of the division and who is in that division and who's going to still be playing hard, I think, as the season winds down.
Now let's look at the ultimate future bet, the World Series. Are any of us feeling bold enough to make a World Series prediction? Well, I am. I've got the Mets. All right. So you know the usual suspects here, right? The Dodgers are in there. The Dodgers, actually, according to the DraftKings Sportsbook, which this podcast is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, #1 sportsbook app, of course, in all the land. Yeah, you got the Mets to win plus 700. The Dodgers, the top team. The Yankees behind that. I think the Mets is good value there at plus 700. If they could get if DeGrom comes back, that's where you cash it in right now. You're going to get the value of plus 700. And Scherzer's a bulldog.
Right.
I mean,
can you imagine facing those two in the playoffs if they're both healthy and ready to go? Which right now the Mets are playing strong enough for them to be gone, right? So when they do return, and they can take their time at this point because there's no reason to panic, they could be healthy and strong, and I would not want to face that team at all.
No,
in the playoffs.
But then again, I mean, LA is the top dog for a reason. They got a pair of pitchers who are 21-1 overall combined, and then you've got Pete Kershaw. He seems to be pitching at a high level once again. Twins to win the AL Century. So I saw a trendy pick in the White Sox,
and
they're
closing in on them.
You covered the D-backs closely. You covered the team back when he was the chief baseball officer. And now here's the guy who hired a veterinarian to be like their chief analytics guy. I think as far as the modern game of baseball has passed Tony La Russa by, I don't want to bet on a team that's led by skipper Tony La Russa in 2022. So I'm going to pick the Twins to hold on to the Central and win that.
I think what's wild about that is you're absolutely right. Like, that team would probably be considerably better,
right,
if they were led by a younger manager that could relate to the players more, not treat them as such a parental figure. You know what I mean? And honestly, he is a legend in baseball to a lot of people. Maybe not to a lot of Diamondbacks fans, but to a lot of people in baseball. So it's really a matter of, how do the players relate to him, and how is their relationship? I mean, he might motivate them. He might be the right, guy for a group of young guys, but he never felt like it was the right move for me personally.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't see this team rallying around their skipper. It seems like Jerry Reinsdorf is content with him being the manager throughout his contract, so it's beyond this year, and that's got to deflate this team,
right? It's kind of bleak.
Right,
we have to oh man, this guy's
shit.
not going anywhere right now. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, some of the managers you see around baseball having success, we're not in that era where you see managers with a lot of experience being the ones that are leading the teams. Like a lot of the managers around baseball that are having success are younger, guys that have a background playing in baseball, most likely former athletes, stuff like that. So I wonder how good that team could be if they were managed by someone differently. And that's just based on them being that, that youthful team that they are.
I think they'd be better off if they just they were managed by a spreadsheet and they was just going off. They didn't have some guy in there saying, the guy's got 2 strikes on him. Let's intentionally walk him like we've seen, or a strike on him.
Just a squirrel picking cards, right? Like just picking random cards. Well, I actually had another team myself from New York as World Series champs. And I know, again, Diamondbacks fans might not be happy with this, but the Yankees as the World Series champs in the second half. Again, I just think that they are a team that have shown at times how obviously good they can be. We know how good they can be, but it's that weird formula that teams that are put together like that don't tend to work. These all-star teams don't work unless, of course, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers, which even for them, honestly, we haven't seen it work out, right? They have one World Series, but based on how good they've been over the last 10 years, you would think that the Dodgers would have 5 in their back pocket. But I think this might be the Yankees' time. Here's another thing that you can do to cover both of these bets is there's actual bets for picking the World Series champion based on state. And you could satisfy both of our selections by picking the state of New York, which I think was like a plus 240 value, I think. But also I'm taking the Brewers there as the favorites, obviously, to win the NL Central. As much as I think that the Cardinals are going to give them a hard time, I think the Brewers are going to hang on to that division. You might want to wait a little bit because as that division gets closer and we get down to the wire a bit, you might get a better value on that than minus 210.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, and if you hold on and you wait for the Cardinals to maybe make that charge and maybe get those odds a little bit better in your favor, you could get some more value. So if you hold on to what Derek said today, and then when people start to panic and the wise guys just kind of they give you a better number, get some more value there. But the DraftKings Sportsbook is absolutely where you're going to want to make your bet. Of course, you can get online and of course, look at all the spreads. As we said, a couple games already in play today.
That's wild, right? Coming off of the All-Star break and having to play a doubleheader just right away.
You got to be furious, and especially with all the stories coming out about these poor Major League players having to fly commercial, Derek. It's
the worst. I wonder how many of them have TSA pre-check. I mean, they might be worth the money.
Well, you would pray that they do. If the fact that the horror of having to fly commercial like the rest of us,
like normal people, it's the worst.
These like peons like us, I mean, it's just brutal. Juan Soto had to fly a commercial, or the guy from the A's, the Astros chartering him a flight. It's a tough day to be a Major League Baseball player.
It really is. Darren Ravel had an article kind of blasting MLB about the home run derby and how they weren't really accurate with some of the numbers potentially because some of the balls were being thrown after the buzzer and being counted as a home run. In some cases, pitchers had different ideas of when they could throw the next ball based on like trajectory or if it landed. And there were just a lot of things that were unclear. And of course, this upset a lot of people who bet money on the home run derby. Understandably, even though the article did come off a little bit whiny, it does point out a flaw here where I think it doesn't matter what you're betting on, right?
Right.
It could literally be, a game of checkers between two people. You want it to be clean, right? You want it to be fair and you want the rules to count. And I won't lie, there were a couple of home runs that I thought that they were going to take off. Right. When they went to a commercial break and maybe rechecked them, but they didn't. They left them on. So
you can't mess with people's monies. That's just a fact.
I saw some tweets of people wanting a refund and such on
if you don't have like an exact way to count it and make sure that it's fair, like if we're gonna put up the odds and people can bet on it, you got to get it right. Like no doubt. I'm not going to argue with that. But also don't put yourself in a situation to where you're living and dying off of Kyle Schwarber advancing past Albert Pujols.
You're absolutely right. So, betting $54,000 on Kyle Schwarber to advance. I would be a bit miffed about that myself.
Right. I think anybody would. So if you're going to put the odds up, if you're going to be a sports, I think Major League Baseball. That's on baseball.
It's on baseball, 1,000%, right? I mean, because they're the ones controlling the event.
You want to play in that arena.
If I was a sports book, I would be a bit mad myself about their lack of just, again, clarity and following their own rules. But I'm sure that's after this year, we'll probably see that
and
cleaned
they
up.
should. And it's too with technology. I know it's an old school game, but you've kind of it's got a facelift a couple of years ago, and it's electric. The home run derby. It's just now
awesome.
People, as always, as these things kind of just develop, people find ways to kind of not bend the rules, but kind of get an advantage in the contest.
Julio Rodriguez was 1 foot short of getting an extra 30 seconds. So, I mean, again, and we don't know how accurate those measurements are, right? So you never know, but definitely it was a fun event to watch. And of course it was made better by betting on it.
You know what makes things better? Going to Four Peaks, hanging out, having yourself a cold one, get some great food. Incredible menu there at Four Peaks Brewing Company, of course, in Tempe, or you can go to the airport. It's over there in one of the terminals. That is an airport beer is probably the number one seeded beer, right?
It's a 10. Yeah, for sure.
I saw the rankings the other day on the Bird on Twitter. Somebody had a post lawn mowing beer is the top seed, but I don't know. When you're in an airport and ready to go on a great trip, can't beat that.
You know why? Because airport rules are in effect. So it doesn't matter. It could be 6 o'clock in the morning and you can enjoy yourself a hazy IPA at the airport.
That's very true. And maybe the lawn mowing thing actually out here in the desert, when you do try to mow your lawn,
valid too. Yeah,
and you're my neighbor and it's like 7:30 and you're keeping me awake. But you still deserve that cold one afterwards. It doesn't matter what time it is. So, but Four Peaks, nobody does it better in the great state of 48 as far as brewing delicious beer. Of course, you've got the flagship Kilt Lifter. You've got Hop Knot. You've got the Wow Joy Bus Wheat, which is one of my personal faves. We're going to be actually out there on Wednesday broadcasting live, July 27th. All of the PHNX shows. That means Derek and Jesse on PHNX D-backs immediately after us here at PHNX Cardinals. Johnny and myself, Frank Sanders, PHNX Sun Devils.
You guys are still going to be celebrating that Kyler Murray contract, I'm sure, by then, right?
By the way, DraftKings Sportsbook still has the Arizona Cardinals win total at 8.5. I didn't expect it to move. Kyler Murray was on the roster. He was going to play, but the extension makes him more comfortable. You're going to get more peak Kyler Murray. I think you can hit the over.
You're getting 9 wins, at least 9 wins.
Hit the over 8.5. I like it. The TK Sportsbook app. But also I like us broadcasting live next Wednesday. First day of Cardinals training camp, by the way, too, July 27th. Come out and hang out with us. Celebrate football season nearly upon us all day, July 27th at Four Peaks Brewing Company. Of course, 8th Street, the OG location. Hang out with us. We appreciate it. And we appreciate you guys hanging out with us today, Shane and Johnny, letting us kind of hijack their broadcast. It's going to do it for us. They'll be back tomorrow at noon with another episode of PHNX Bets Daily. Shane and Johnny, we'll talk to you then.